Before you take a look at this video, make sure you've already reviewed what relative pronouns are or have learned those. Today we're going to go ahead and dive into relative pronouns after prepositions. So, before we do that, let's review what the relative pronouns are. So, here we go. Write down this chart and fill it in. When you are ready to check your answers, resume the video and you can watch me fill it in. Notice all of the D words, the relative pronouns, are listed down below. All right, so that's your relative pronoun chart. Now we can begin. Now, if we're talking about relative pronouns with prepositions, you're going to also want to write down the prepositions. So, hört gut zu, schreibt or schreiben Sie. Accusative, durch, für, gegen, ohne, Dative, aus, außer, bei, mit, nach, Zeit, von, zu. Genitive, anstatt, statt, trotz, während, wegen, innerhalb, außerhalb. Two-way or Wechselpräpositionen an, auf, hinter, in, neben, über, unter, vor, zwischen. As a friendly reminder with dative, you can think of aus, außer, bei, mit, nach, Zeit, von, zu, aus, außer, bei, mit, nach, Zeit, von, zu, aus, außer, bei, mit, nach, von, Zeit, and zu. Two-way prepositions an, auf, hinter, in, neben, über, unter, vor, zwischen. Just as some fun memory tricks. Now, here we go. So, we can use relative pronouns as subjects, and when we look at relative pronouns as subjects, we're talking about relative pronouns in the nominative case. We can look at them as direct objects, therefore meaning the accusative case, and we can look at them as indirect objects or the dative case. The other thing that we want to watch out for now is what if it's a preposition that we're dealing with? So not just like who or that, but with whom or for that. So these are the things you need to know. As always, what is the gender of the noun that we are now making into a pronoun? So it's either masculine, feminine, neuter, or plural. Second, what is the case in the relative clause? So that's the clause or the statement that's going to have the relative pronoun. Is it a nominative, accusative, dative, or genitive? Because we are dealing with prepositions, we are dealing with the case of the preposition. That's why I hope you wrote down all of the other prepositions by case. The ones we have to watch out for certainly are those two-way prepositions, because two-way prepositions can either be accusative or dative. We have to figure out how they're being used. Once we've gone ahead and figured out the gender and case, then we can go ahead and use the chart that we made. Now, one thing we need to remember is the relative pronouns act like subordinating conjunctions. That means the verb placement goes to the end of the relative clause. All right, so just watch out for where that goes. So let's go ahead and try this. We have two sentences that we want to combine utilizing a a relative pronoun. We have the train isn't coming. I'm waiting for the train. All right. So here we have our first, oops, I need a comma. Here we have the independent clause, right? The independent clause is the one that's going to stand by itself. So we have the train isn't coming. What we want to say is the train on which I am waiting isn't coming. So we need to now take this sentence and replace what's the common element. So hopefully you figured out the common element is train. We're going to replace this with a relative pronoun. Okay? So think about the instructions I gave you. First, what's the gender of train? The gender is masculine. Second, in the context of this sentence, which we're going to make into a relative clause, what is the case? And because we're dealing with prepositions, we need to look at what case is it with auf. If you recall, oops, let me delete that. If you recall, auf is a two-way preposition. So, is this accusative or dative? Well, tricky, tricky. Warten auf is a verb prep combo. Warten auf always takes the accusative. So this is going to be, oh, that's a bad color to write in. This is going to be accusative. Now, if you didn't know warten auf, you can use this as kind of a check, right? Der Zug becomes den Zug in the accusative case. So oftentimes this can help you. So now that we have it's masculine and it's accusative, now we can go look at our chart. So I go masculine, accusative, and that gets me den. Now, we're not done yet. This is a relative pronoun following a following a preposition. So we have to take the preposition with it. So the preposition is auf. Oops, sorry, one second. Okay, so auf den, right? So we have our preposition and we have our relative pronoun. And what happens to our verb? Yay, it does. It goes to the end. So if you recall what the instructions were, this is treated like a subordinating conjunction. So we have to put our verb placement at the end. Der Zug, auf den ich warte, kommt nicht. The train on which I wait isn't coming. All right? So just to kind of recap, auf den. All right, this is the relative pronoun. Don't just put this because this is den. That is not always true. So you do have to follow the steps. What's the gender? What's the case? Finally, look at the chart. Okay, so don't just put that. And then we want to move our verb right here to the end of the clause. Is that the teacher? We have talked about the teacher. All right, so we have die Lehrerin and for the Lehrerin. This is the common element that we're going to replace. So is that the teacher that we have spoken about or talked about? All right, so here we go. Follow the steps. 1, what's the gender of teacher? All right, this is feminine or weiblich. 2, what's the case? Now, you have to look at the preposition. Is it durch, für, gegen, ohne, accusative? Or is it aus, außer, bei, mit, nach, Zeit, von, zu, dative? Or is it two-way? Or is it genitive? Hopefully you heard when I listed it that it's dative. So now we have that it's feminine and dative. I'm going to go back to our chart. Feminine, dative, and they intersect here. So this becomes der. All right, so we have der, because I've used third step, I use the chart. So this is going to become der for our relative pronoun. So our preposition and our pronoun are going to go here. Von, der. And now what happens to the other elements? And I would encourage you to go ahead and, if you need to, as you're learning this, cross off the elements you've already included so now you can figure out what goes here. So Von der, next comes we, the subject. Wir, then we have this verb element, because remember, we're waiting for conjugated verb to go to the end. Von der wir gesprochen. Sorry, it's a little hard to write with a mouse, so not my best penmanship. Oops. See, I just jinxed myself. Haben. Woo! That is crazy writing. Ist das die Lehrerin, von der wir gesprochen haben? Yay! Good job. We get a gold star. And a smiley face. Why not? So, I would like for you to go ahead and take this sentence, these two sentences, and combine them. I'm just going to do this verbally. So, the two clauses are Das Land ist schön. The country is beautiful. The second sentence is Wir fahren nach dem Land. We travel, we drive to the country. So what I'm asking you to do is to say the country that we drive to is beautiful. So go ahead and write out the two independent sentences or the two complete sentences and then combine those sentences using a relative pronoun following a preposition. Viel Glück, viel Spaß.